you're always going to be on your way. You know, the journey really never ends. And I think that's where a lot of people get stuck and in their own way, is when they think that they should be somewhere at some destination. And there really is no destination when it comes to your health.
Welcome into Spiritual Mixtape, and I'm Daisy Mack. I almost forgot to say my name. Oh, one of those days. But it's because I'm so excited, because today we have a friend, a colleague, and a mentor for me. Jenn Cino is on the pod. If you don't know who she is, where have you been? This lady has literally changed my life. She's changed me from the inside out, and she gave me work. What is there not to like about
I'm
Jenn
like your
Cino?
sugar daddy.
Yes, you are. I would love that so much. And it's this sense of humor that makes me adore Jenn even more. She's a coach, and she started off helping people lift weights, which was a bit of a revelation for me. But the place that Jenn has gone to now is functional lab testing and coaching, and basically helping people sort out their dodgy hormones. Hello, a recovering dodgy hormone person. And basically breathing new life into you. Jenn definitely has a better way of explaining this. But because I know that everybody out there listening, including my men out there, we're all on a journey with our health. We kind of abused our bodies. We took our bodies to the extreme, working difficult jobs, doing more than we should without the opportunity to replenish our resources. And now we're correcting all of that lack of minerals, all of the burnout. Correcting.
I'm glad you said work. Work is what did it. Not the 10 years of partying.
I mean, for me, it's definitely more than 10 years. I think about this a lot because anyone who's met me in the last 5 years is like, Party Daisy? Did that exist? And I'm like, I need to tell people so that they're not shocked if a picture like lands on their desk. It was, for me, partying was really part of my job when you're in the music industry. And like, it's a badge of honor to get no sleep, to go straight from legitimately straight from the rave, straight from the nightclub, straight from, because I know that you're engaged to a Brit, straight from the Love Island rave, Ibiza, Mykonos, wherever it was, plane to the office, work all day, maybe a little nap, but it was sleep, rave, repeat. That was my life. And I completely burnt out. And that was 5 years ago. And only last year did I start to truly do the deep work to correct what was happening in my body. So Jenn, how are you? Thank you for being here.
I am doing so well. Thanks for having me. And I feel like I'm so proud of you if it's only been a year, because I mean, it took me like 6 years to pull myself out of that hole and get myself somewhat back on track. So you're doing pretty well.
Oh, it's definitely, I mean, I'm still in. So I teach breathwork for Jenn's community, but I'm also like a client in it. I'm never leaving you, not for a long time, not because I'm not well, but because it's a process and there are cycles to it. And some months I'm like, my period's great. Sorry, guys. I know that this is like not necessarily your average drive to work conversation, but sometimes, you know, you should know about this. You'll have female colleagues, you'll have wives and sisters. My period's great and it's like a great month. But then the next month, my period just knocks me and I feel like I'm rebalancing all over again. And I'm never like, I have to really track everything to be like, what's that thing that caused? So I'm on my way, but it's still going. Like when I think about those results that I got last year when we did my hair test, I'm like, how everything is depleted. How did I let it get this bad? I'm so sorry, body. let me heal you and not do that again. No more sleep, rave, repeat for me. Maybe a little bit, but not on a
Only on
daily.
weekends.
Yeah, exactly.
I won't tell. No, and that's the thing is you're always going to be on your way. You know, the journey really never ends, and I think that's where a lot of people get stuck and in their own way is when they think that they should be somewhere at some destination, and there really is no destination when it comes to your health. You know, we're not we're not we're not living in a bubble where you heal once and then you're set for the next 60 years, right? There's so much that always needs to be done, and I think that's the amazing thing about it, because you learn so much about yourself constantly, and you, like you said, every month that goes by you pick up on more cues and more things that you can tweak. But that's also the hard part, and that's why a lot of people don't give themselves the chance because of maybe a lack of patience, maybe other factors that I'm sure you could speak more about in terms of the human psyche. But the sooner you recognize and accept that the road is long and it never ends, I think the sooner you become at peace with that road never ending.
I hope that you know that is basically an Eckhart Tolle quote that I read this morning. You just got so deep and so spiritual, like so quickly. There is no destination. That's when you become like a release attachment, and then you're at peace in the moment. So do you think your work is spiritual?
Oh, I guess it depends how you look at it. I don't even know what label to place on myself at this point. I feel like spiritual fits into it a little bit. And I think I work with so many different types of people. It's really hard to put labels on my work because I see so many different facets playing into it and playing into different people's journeys. I think I posted yesterday on Instagram and I said something like, exercise, for example, working out is 90% mental and 10% physical. And people think it's the opposite. And I really think that, yeah, your health journey is a very spiritual, mental journey more than anything, because you and only you are the one who's going to either propel yourself forward or get in your own way and stop that progression. And it all starts in the brain. Hence why we brought Miss Daisy in to help everyone release some of that stress with breath. But truly, again, and I think that is where a lot of people get in their own way, is they go into a program like mine or a journey like yours and, oh, I'll just take the supplements and I'll be fine, right? But we know it's so much, that's a very small piece of the pie. It's so much more than just those little daily physical tasks that you can overcome. It's really the hard days that will determine your success in this, because it's easy for everyone to take your supplements and go to the gym and, drink your water when the sun is shining. But what about when it's raining? Like where you are right now?
Literally tipping it down. Anyone who's in California will know that we're having the worst storm. And Jem, when we got on, was like, is that snow in California? You do not want to go out in this. Your metaphorical rainy days. And I think like for me, I've been really coming to terms with the fact that I have to apply myself on my metaphorical rainy days, because my body at 40 isn't what it was at 30, and it needs me to show up for it on the rainy days. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, my spiritual practices, my meditation isn't as deep. My breath work feels harder. The bits that I like doing don't have the same flavor unless I turn off the other bits.
Right. And that's the thing too. I mean, that's a good perspective to keep. What do you do on sunny days versus what do you do on rainy days? And again, it's this idea in your head that every day is going to be a forward trajectory. And if you're not moving forward and what you think is moving forward, then you're moving backwards. When in reality, we need to learn to navigate those rainy days. What do you do on a rainy day? You're not going to the beach. You're not going out for a hike, right? You're probably cozying up on the couch with a nice book and a tea, hopefully not crying into the pillow. Right? I mean, but you could do either one. And the outcome of your day will depend on which of those tasks you choose. So again, it's really about how you navigate those storms and those rainy days, and having a plan in place as well for those days that are going to come, because it's never going to be sunshine 365 unless you live in Dubai, which maybe we should move there.
Maybe. I mean, I wouldn't be upset if that was the office that we decided to open. Let's go.
We'd pay way less tax.
I know. Tax is so painful. These adults.
Let's not go down that rabbit hole.
Well, so you've just given everybody basically the number one trick to navigating rainy days, having a plan. What would be on your plan for a rainy day?
You know, if we're talking about health in particular, my rainy days are usually the days that I'm a little bit more stressed out, maybe have a little bit more on my plate. You know, things in my business maybe aren't going to plan because things never do. And I feel like at this point in my life, you know, 5-10 years ago, the things getting in the way of my sunny days were alcohol and partying and going to bed at 1 a.m. and eating processed foods and all the things. And that looks a little bit different now. Now mine is learning when to slow down, really being able to navigate if my team is struggling a little bit, if clients are struggling a little bit. The work I do is very emotional. In addition to spiritual, as an empath, the self-proclaimed empath, it's difficult to work with people in this capacity because they confide in you a lot, which I love, but it's also a lot to take on. And so I think a lot of my rainy days come when there's a lot of stress on my plate. And so for me, what that means is definitely getting outside, getting into the sun, if there is any out there, and you know, eating. I actually, and not from a place of stress eating, but genuinely nourishing my body and knowing that my body is using more of its resources to get me through those hard days, and knowing that the last thing it needs is for me to restrict and deprive it, because I will fall so much further down that hole. And that is probably the one thing, moving my body as well. But sometimes I just need to rest. And so I think it's, again, so multifaceted. I think at the core it is honestly, as simple as it is, it's eating enough and making sure I'm eating. I'm not skipping meals, because I know when I skip meals, I'm going to be hangry. Blood sugar is going to go all over the place. I'm going to be exhausted, and no one wants that. I definitely don't want that. Right. So it really comes down to those foundational things. There's not like this elaborate scheme I have in place. It's how can I take care of me right now? Right. And that comes down to what you put in your body, what you put in your mind as well. You know, putting on a good podcast, maybe Spiritual Mixtape.
I love that. A little plug for me. Thank you so much. Ever the businesswoman, or the good friend, both hats being worn there. So I love that you touched on being an empath. And again, that is definitely a common thread that runs through people who come into Spiritual Mixtape. The biggest draws, or like the biggest performing episodes, are usually like energy work meditations, like where people are able to heal themselves in a calmer way. Because I love the breath work, but some days when you're dealing with a lot of people and you're an empath, all you want is to be held energetically and to heal your own energy. So let's talk about being a business owner and an empath, because those two things, it's like, it's your superpower and your Achilles heel.
Mm-hmm.
Because it makes people like bond with you. They're so like endeared to you. They're drawn to you, especially when you're really in a healing. I don't know if you would call it a healing art. I'd call what you do a healing art with a lot of science in it, or medical like components with it. But how does that work for you? Especially because you're pregnant now as well. Like that's a lot of hats and like resourcing yourself. And I know that you've touched on it a little bit on like the eating, but let's talk more about being an empath. I want to hear this from Jenn.
It's been a journey for sure, and I'm still on that journey. I'm still figuring out how to navigate that. I think, like you said, it can be your superpower, and it can also be the thing that kind of drags you down sometimes. I love it about me because I care so deeply about my work and my clients more than anything. And sometimes that leads to sleepless nights, anxiety and worry that, people aren't getting the experience or the results that I feel they deserve. And so it's really this balancing act. And I've found that honestly, the better my boundaries have become, actually, the better the results of my clients have become. Because for the longest time when I first started my business, I was so paranoid, honestly, and worried about my clients. And I'd literally wake up when I first started my business back in 2020, I'd wake up in the middle of the night and be thinking about them. Oh my gosh, have they messaged me and I haven't gone back to them soon enough? Just these things that were so kind of ridiculous, honestly, when I look back at it. And I had to really realize too, that the more I let go, the more they grew, because I think there's a balancing act between knowing that you're there for them, but also not relying on you, and like learning how to find their own feet and find their own answers and trust their own intuition. Because if you're constantly, spoon feeding your clients, quite frankly, what's going to happen in 6 months when they're done, right? They're going to fall flat on their face because they don't have you anymore to rely on constantly to find all the answers for them. So it's been this balancing act of, I'm here for you, I got you, but also you need to learn this too, because I can't do this for you forever. And I think honestly, pregnancy has really helped just with my personal boundaries and my work boundaries, because I would, run myself into the ground very easily, as most business owners will.
Yeah.
And not really think twice about it. Oh, I'll just go in the sauna. Oh, I'll just go to bed early tonight. And now it's like, I've got this hiccuping fetus in my gut reminding me, be like, Mom, chill the fuck out.
And how do you feel about the next chapter? Like, we have a lot of new mums, or like people, like women and dads ready to become parents. They're on their first baby journey. How do you feel on the precipice? Because it's soon, isn't it? It's like,
it's so soon.
Yeah.
It's like 8 weeks. I know. I don't know how to feel. I honestly don't know how to feel. Again, I think it's been such a blessing for me, because it really has helped me be firmer in my boundaries, which is really probably my biggest life lesson up until this point, is learning to find my own voice. And it's funny, I used to say my thyroid issues, although they're probably mold, aside from mold. But from a spiritual perspective, I'd always say, my throat chakra, it's because I don't find my voice and I don't stand up for myself and I don't speak my truth. And where's your thyroid? It's right there. And so ironically, as I've learned to stand up for myself and put boundaries in place in a very loving way, my thyroid has healed naturally, right? I'm no longer hypothyroid. And I really do think that spiritual part of it was a huge component in it, and finding my voice again and just clearing that stagnant energy. But in saying that, going back to the pregnancy, I think it's been such a good journey for me, because it's really forced me to honestly slow down and think about not just me, but this other human inside of me, and how my stress and my lack of boundaries will affect her. And so it's been good. Ask me again in 8 weeks when I'm sleep deprived.
I love that. You're a mama already. You're thinking about your baby. How beautiful and just so special. I think, like, I have had so many friends, and when you're in this job and you're working with people who are healing, so many people have struggled to conceive, or they're on an IVF journey, just because I feel like you go through this and you see it a lot in Fit and Functional. What's your advice to anyone that's on that particular journey? And I know that that's very deep, but we've just had, James and I have just watched 2 of our friends who were told that they wouldn't be able to have a baby, had like several rounds of IVF, just conceived naturally once they stopped trying, and it's just it's obviously more important than that, but I just love to give people messages of not even hope, but just like, here's some advice because this is what I've seen in my practice.
Mm-hmm. And this is, I'm torn between the advice I give, because from a personal perspective and then a professional perspective. So professionally, you can do all the protocols, you can heal your gut, you can do all the things. And sometimes it just doesn't equate to the result you want. And I see this actually a lot. And this is a conversation I have. And I think my perspective is a little bit different because I didn't get pregnant super easy. And I remember the months and just wondering, like, when the heck, like, what I remember specifically thinking, I can't do anything more. There's literally nothing else I can do. Like, I've done the gut work. I do the breath work. I try and manage my stress. I eat a lot. Like, I'm doing all the things. I'm taking the supplements. What else could I possibly do? And that's a really hard thing to grapple with. And I think a lot of my clients also feel that way, especially when you are maybe looking at other people who seemingly have it so easy and maybe you don't feel like they're putting in the work that you're putting in. And that's really difficult as well. As much as I was always so happy for my friends, and, I've never really been the person who's like spiteful and like genuinely so happy, but you're like, how? Honestly, sometimes it just truly makes no sense. It really doesn't. And that's maybe not great for my business to say that out loud. But sometimes it truly doesn't make sense. And maybe the answer is just beyond what I have found at this point, right? Maybe it is more of a spiritual, energetic thing that I quite haven't mastered yet. So I don't have advice. I think like taking care of yourself is so important, and knowing that it's not your fault. And sometimes there's really, honestly, truly not a whole lot else you can do other than just let it happen. And the only thing that I can fall back onto is, if it had happened a year earlier, maybe my kid would have been a huge asshole. Maybe it's all in right timing, right? And it happened for a reason. And like that's the most scientific answer I can give you.
I love it. You've just blurred the lines between science and woo, and that is exactly what we love over here at Spiritual Mixtape. I do think that you just gave the most beautiful bit of soul advice. Like, it's not your fault.
Mm-hmm.
Because I haven't been in that situation, but having clients and friends who have, it's really difficult to not feel personally at fault on that journey.
Yeah.
But you are living proof that keep taking the supplements, keep doing the work, and it does turn around.
You know what? I will say, even though maybe it didn't happen as quickly as I'd like it, I've had a really easy pregnancy. I feel great for the most part. Maybe I'm just running off cortisol. Who knows?
No, I don't think so.
No, but really, I think all the work I did before obviously has really helped me. And I'm sure it's going to help me in my postpartum journey and my recovery and all that kind of stuff. So it's not all for nothing. All the hard work you're doing, my baby's going to be nice and healthy. I'm manifesting it. So it's not all for nothing, but I get how difficult it can be. And especially even in my job, I do work with a lot of women who are struggling, and I work with a lot of couples who maybe have lost a baby. And that was really, really hard for me, especially in my first trimester. And I remember I leaned on my friends so much because I was so anxious and scared all the time, because I see all the things that go quote unquote wrong, right? The women who get pregnant after one cycle aren't coming to me, they're not the ones that are in my program. And so I truly see so much of the stuff that you get worried about when you do fall pregnant. So that was really, really hard for me. And I just remember, maybe this is my piece of advice, but one of my friends, she said to me, I was kind of expressing how I was so nervous. And she said, your baby's default is to live. and that's all you can hold on to. And it was so true. And that's what I just kept telling myself, like, okay, default is life. The default is life. The default's not the other way. So that really helped me kind of get through those harder days. But I get it. Like it's really hard. And unless you've been in the position, you don't actually realize how much of a mental burden it is every single day. It's not even just getting pregnant, but then once you get pregnant, you're like, how do I stay pregnant? and then you stay pregnant. And it's like, oh God, is the labor and delivery going to be okay? And then you never stop worrying about them. So,
and then it's just one thing after another. And they become teenagers and do even like, they become sleep, rave, repeat. And it's,
and then you're signing them up for a program in 2060.
I think that is the most beautiful way to round this up. Their default is, that's me beeping away. Their default is to live. Our default is to live. What a beautiful, spiritual, human concept to just take away from this podcast. Thank you so much, Jenn. I'm going to make sure that all of your details are in the show notes. Jenn has the most amazing social media. I'm always reposting your stuff, especially about mold poisoning, because I'm almost obsessed that I'm like, am I going to manifest more mold into my life? I'm so interested in it.
We're like mold sisters.
Exactly. What's your handle on your Instagram?
Life as Jenn with 2 N's.
That's it. And there's a pretty picture in a white dress right now. It might change by the time this podcast comes out. And then I'm sorry, I'm sad for you. You'll miss that pretty picture. But for now, it's there. Jenn, thank you for spending time with us today. And you're amazing.
Likewise. Thank you.